Hello and welcome to Conversations about Language Teaching. I'm Dr. Diane Neubauer,
And
she,
I'm
her.
and I'm Dr. Reed Riggs, he, him.
And today we have an episode that is a little bit freeform. Well, we'll see where it turns out, but we wanted to talk about how teachers start implementing new teaching strategies or new instructional activities or those sorts of things. Like, how do you come up with ideas? How do you start thinking about how to try them and when? What do you do the first time you try it? How do you evaluate how it went? Like that process of trying something new as a teacher. And I know that both Reed and I are actually actively doing that with language teaching, and I'm also doing it with the university teacher education courses that I teach. So we're thinking about these things all the time, and we've been sharing some ideas back and forth. So we'll probably give examples from that, but I'm thinking on that side of how is it that we start doing something new? What makes you want to do something new or try something different? How do you start thinking about it, getting those ideas, and then putting it into practice and trying it out? So,
Kind of at a principles thinking level. Yeah.
yeah, yeah,
Hmm.
because I think this is a place that people get stuck.
Yeah.
You can read about all kinds of new instructional strategies, but if you're like, but how would I do it?
Yeah. And
You
also
know,
when is a big question.
yeah, yeah. And if you are already, maybe you're finding that there's other challenges to being a language teacher, that would be very normal. And so, you want to make the process of trying something new as successful as possible. And how does that work then?
Dan, did you have a
Because you don't want to make it
story?
harder for yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. Did you have a story to kind of lead into this, a situated what prompted you to think of this first?
Hmm. Kind of just that I was going to be trying some new things and wanted to be, I think, more intentional about the way that I was doing that, and even including students like, hey, I'm trying this new thing. This is
Hmm.
an experiment, even
Yeah.
using that kind of term. And afterwards, we're going to see how did it go for you? Where should we change things up? In the case of the online language classes I have, I'll share what I'm doing a little differently. This fall, I've already started one group. So I have three groups. We only meet every other week for an hour. So really minimal amount of time. They're all adults. They're all adults in these three groups, but one is a total beginner group, no previous exposure to Chinese. One is advanced beginning, and they're a whole mix of different experiences with Chinese. They've got some basic language comprehension, maybe a little bit of productive ability. And then the third group is experienced Chinese. And again, that's a very mixed set of experiences for folks, but I think of them as sort of the intermediate low, if you know the actual proficiency scale. They are starting to be able to string sentences together. They're starting to be able to like do survival Chinese, as I think of it, but it's still got a lot. As they produce things, it's going to sound like a learner's language system and not like the polished feel of the native speaker or the very advanced learner, where there's infrequent times that you realize, maybe they're a learner. They're able to communicate a ton, and that's the goal. So they're at a place like that. So
Hmm.
these three very different groups of learners, I'm actually planning from the same lesson plan and the same materials because I am working full time and have evening classes and all this kind of schedule to organize. So I really wanted to streamline my planning and prep. And one of my favorite things has been trying new things with total novice learners that people don't expect is possible for novice learners. Not to overwhelm them with too much language or too complex a thing, but to be able to address topics and contexts of language use that at least traditional textbooks don't think that total beginners can do. And so this fall, one of the things that I'm doing in each of these different levels is introducing a person or a few people. I'm starting at least so far with someone from the Chinese speaking world. And I chose a band that is from the part of Southwest China where I lived. They're actually a nationality from within the E people. And I knew the music that they play because I used to live in that region. And so hearing about this band that's now traveling around the world and playing this music in a very upbeat kind of rock version in some cases, but still really holding to the traditional stuff. I wanted to share that piece with all of these different classes. And so, how do you do that kind of thing in a very, very, very simple way? I'm thinking when I have class tonight with those very beginners, it'll be something around like, I like music. Do you like music? They like music, the people in the photo. Um, Listen, do you like their music? And that'll be like, that's it. you know,
Yeah.
in the advanced beginners, we already met once. We could still look at the same people's image and talk about things a little bit more complexly. We could introduce a little bit about, oh, do you also play an instrument? Are you a magician? A musician? They are musicians. She sings, he plays, those sorts of things. And then with the experienced folks, I imagine doing something again where it's again scaled around these images of the people from this part of the world, and then back and forth comparing to us in the group. And maybe we're going to get into musical styles a little bit more, talking about specialized terminology for different instruments, perhaps. Have you ever heard this Chinese instrument? Look at what he's playing. It's this one. So getting to talk in a more complex way, but all about the same thing. And I think that level of differentiating across that much of a range of proficiency is new to me. Like I've
Yeah.
done it with the advanced beginner and the more experienced groups that I've taught, but I've never included the total beginner.
Hmm.
And I'm curious to see how it goes.
Yeah, yeah. So if I could help, if I could, if you'll allow me to process a little bit,
Yeah.
as you were speaking, I was thinking, at first I was thinking, is this about personal connection in terms of planning? So personal connection, personal space to plan. Like we're busy, you're busy, teachers are busy.
Yeah.
And so that one of the first things, and I think about this a lot, I don't have time for a whole lot of things that I want to do. And I have lists growing with things that I want to do. And I have very little time to ever get around to them. So I do a little thing once in a while. Also, any material that I create, I'll think, okay, I'll have a picture and I'll put a bunch of vocab around it and that'll lead us off. And then the class is about to start. And I'm like, oh, I'll just get a picture. Like I literally didn't have the time to make the vocab around it. But then that leads to a different kind of interaction with the picture where
Absolutely.
instead of
It could be
crowding,
good.
it can be very good. We're not crowding out the students' opportunities to contribute by having a bunch of vocab that I have supplied, which kind of signals to them, oh, we're going to talk about what the teacher said, or we're going to focus on this vocab and just learn, focus on forms kind of
Yeah,
language thing.
words. Yeah. And maybe not get into something that they noticed in the photo or that they want to
Right,
ask about
right.
because, oh, well, we got these 10 or
Yeah, let's let
15
the
words,
teacher
like we
get
have to learn
through
those.
what
Yeah.
this is, whatever this looks like. Let's let the teacher get through that. Whereas if it's just a photo, there's more space. And even for me to think of things on the spot as opposed to being like, got to get through that vocab. So there's a lot of benefits to under planning. But
Yeah.
the source of it is usually just that I didn't have time, and I know I don't have time. And so then, as you were talking, so then I started thinking that relates to practicality when we talk about assessment design. So I'm sort of borrowing this notion from assessment design that you can create a big fancy assessment where students do really creative things. The question is, how long will you need to score it, or how many teachers will you need to put together on a team to score it? And so practicality is just simply put, how much time and effort and energy and people
Right.
will you need?
Absolutely.
And
Yeah.
so
You need
highly
to
practical
make it
is
serve
like,
you.
yeah. And so highly practical is like a Scantron is the most practical assessment because it takes the least time to score. You just scan it through a machine. So in terms of planning your band talk, I was thinking practicality, but then I thought, no, it also comes back to personal connection, not just in terms of planning time, but also in terms of your ability to speak about this band that you have personal experience with. And so I was thinking that maybe teachers, as we often like, the spirit that goes into talking about a spa day for the teacher, like it's like, oh, I'm so overworked, I
Yeah.
really need a spa day. That sort of that personal self and personal. I think too often teachers say, okay, I'm just a middle agent for the textbook. Like
Mm.
I'm just here to deliver your lessons and get you out of here. And
Yeah.
if you make it more personal, then students, yeah, can connect through you. And if you believe that that's a bad thing, like, oh, I should be more humble and remove myself, just so the students can engage and I can be whatever a guide on the side, as they say. I think there are times for that, but it can also be really nice when you're having a whole discussion with the class.
Hmm.
If you can say, oh yeah, yeah, like you're more able to answer their questions if you have a personal experience with it.
Yeah, yeah. And I feel like that I see what I perceive as an engagement bump.
Mhm.
Like there's a heightened interest in participating when they realize, like, oh wait, this is something that relates to our actual teacher's real experience, not just, like I'm trying to make it very relevant to their experiences too, so that we kind of bridge the cultural differences among us in the class as well as
Yeah,
in the people that we're introducing them to through the like in the lessons that I'm planning.
yeah.
I'm thinking, maybe after a couple weeks, I'll ask them for an idea of like, send me by email somebody that you think would be cool for all of us in the class to know about, and I'll
Mm,
find out, and
build on that.
we'll learn about that
Yeah,
person and talk about the things that we share in common or are
yeah,
different from that person. So that's
yeah.
kind of the theme.
I do something similar where I'll just lead with examples. So for my MYP 5, my 10th graders, we have a unit on China. No, ninth graders, MYP 4. They do MYP is the middle year program in the IB schools. And we sort of treat 6th through 10th grade as a long middle school. I think this is, I don't
Yeah,
know if
interesting.
European schools are like that, but it's kind of the intention that they just keep doing hands-on poster projects, self-interest, self-exploration kinds of things from 6th through 10th grade. And so I get the ninth and 10th graders. So we have a unit, it's about 2 months long, on Chinese historical clothing. We read news articles, we look at pictures, we do all kinds of things, and then for their poster project at the end, they do their own research and then put together a little picture timeline of different Chinese historical clothing and then present it to the class. So we're doing that, but then I realized that my current seniors, I had they had just missed the year when I created that. So they were 10th graders when I first made that for ninth graders. So I thought I like that unit. And the students often say like they appreciate looking at a whole timeline of China, like China's long history on a big kind of snaking map. It's about it's something 3 or 4,000 years, kind of going back into less recorded times, 5,000. Chinese people say
I typically
5,000.
hear, yeah, Chinese
Chinese
people will
people
tell you
say
five.
5,000. I'm not sure what the map exactly shows. Maybe it's
I just go with that.
four and a half thousand. Sure, sure, sure.
Yeah.
But
How much of a historical record we have back that far is
it starts to get
less
a little
sure.
foggy, yeah,
Yeah.
when you get to the far back part.
Shang Dynasty stuff,
Yeah, the Shang stuff and Xia. So, but I pass out a map and we lead in with a little. So this is actually a new thing I did for the seniors I'd never done before, where I passed out photocopies of the historical timeline. And then I said, it's going to be a listening point, and the whole goal is just to get you a little familiar with China's super long history. And so I went Shang, and I had to look around on it and then point to it. And then I go Xia, and I had to look around and point to it. Han,
right?
look around and point to it. And it was just to like get familiar with the visuals of that map. Like it just lead
Yeah.
us
The
in.
dynasty names of
Dynasty names,
the
yeah.
ruling family. Yeah.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
And then we went into the main news article text that I'd already been using for my ninth graders, and they picked it up quicker because they had a lot more language to jump into it. It's a tiny amount of text, which is appropriate for my ninth graders. It's a news article, but the selection of text is marked in a document that accompanies it,
So it's
and
just an excerpt.
it's an excerpt, yeah. And I do that with news articles. I have real news articles. All of my levels do this. And then I go in and I choose usually the title plus like a key sentence in the news article. But that little key sentence for my seniors, they're like, that's it. And I was like, yeah, let's just do it. Yeah, just keep it simple, keep it quick. I just wanted you to have this exposure. We do, we're preparing for our internal assessment where I interview them and it's recorded. They present about a surprise picture that they've never seen before for 4 minutes. Then I ask them questions for 5 minutes, and it's on a theme. And then for the next 6 minutes, we switch to a different theme, and then ask more questions. And so it's 15 minutes of just, it's kind of like an actual IPA where you're just probing what they can understand and produce. It's a lot more interaction focused. Criterion C is interaction. So it's can they keep the back and forth going? Can they answer
Hmm.
questions without me needing to stop and explain? And can they expand each time they answer my question? So they answer it and say a little bit more about it. So when we do these as practice leading up to it, so they get used to the format of the interview. But yeah, when I would point to the little picture of the Chinese historical clothing people, they they would spit out all the facts from the news article pretty well. They'd remembered
Hmm.
there's two kinds
Yeah.
of there's the fancy kind for weddings and ceremonies, and then there's the common kind for wearing around your day. But the two reasons I did it, one was because I just thought it was valuable. I just thought
Hmm.
you guys missed this, and we haven't really
Yeah.
dug into like a Chinese historical timeline, and it was practical for me because I didn't have to create anything new. I was just like,
Right.
here,
You had
let me
something. Yeah,
recycle this
that's
for you.
huge. Like,
Yeah.
yeah, just trying something that is just a little addition or like I think you referenced something and I wanted to ask about it. And like you said something about you had introduced something with only with your freshmen the first time. And that
Yeah.
so they like I think that's what you said.
Yeah.
So they
Mhm.
hadn't had it as 10th graders because now you do it in 10th grade, but you didn't when they like did you were you being strategic in choosing where you started something new? Like were you only selecting the class that you thought
You know,
this is the
uh,
place it's likely to be more successful the first time through. Let's go here and see how it goes, and then maybe think about whether to
in this
do it
case,
again.
it's actually the opposite. Yeah, that is yes, but not in this case. So,
Okay.
usually I try new things with my seniors because they have the most strong language abilities to handle unpredictable like things. Where I'm like, here's a text about seashell money from 3,000 years ago, and and it just seems like a good cultural topic, and it's in the topic of the unit
Yeah.
social organization where we're looking at kind of society level ways of organizing, and so
Yeah.
then it
And
goes
and
really
then
well.
just to
Yeah.
for the audience that doesn't know, like the word for shell, like
Hmm.
ocean shell,
Hmm.
seashell, is in words for money and related things. And so it's like
Yep.
it
That
comes
too.
up,
That too.
it's
Yep.
still a modern thing.
We mention it a lot when we say like, okay, so this word for buying and selling things or goods on the market. What's in
Yeah.
that? I mean, it comes up a lot. Where you're like, what's that little part of that Chinese character? Oh, it's a seashell. Like, oh, it's a seashell because historically seashells. Um,
Hmm.
but there's info in there, like what people were doing with it, kind of society at the time. And so as I watched my seniors work with it, then I started to think, okay, here's how I could modify it for my ninth graders as well. And so there
Oh,
are things
cool.
that my ninth and 10th graders will get after I see how my seniors work with it.
Nice.
Yeah. And,
Yeah.
and I kind of think of it as sedimenting, like sediments kind of fall down. And so, and it gradually allows me to increase I want to say difficulty. I don't mean difficulty, but I want to say difficulty. The language load,
Hmm.
the load of content and language that my ninth graders can handle. It helps me better find
Yeah.
what maximum they can handle productively. Is I'll
Yeah.
say, okay, let me ratchet up a little bit because my seniors did really well, and I
So good.
believe I
Yeah.
can imagine how you would be able to handle this too. And then they do, and I go, great, lock it in. My ninth graders will now
Hmm.
continue to do this, which means when they get to senior year, they'll have already covered the things that this year my seniors just did, which means they'll be even stronger for other things.
Hmm.
So I don't know
Yeah.
if
So you have
my,
space to innovate again.
yeah, and I don't know if there will be some point where enough sediment has settled that it's kind of like built up calcite. I don't know what you, I don't know where this metaphor is going, but
Sandstone or limestone
sandstone.
or
It just
something.
keeps building
I live
up.
where limestone is
Okay,
very
limestone,
prevalent.
but
So,
it just keeps accumulating to the point where there's nothing else at the top that I could imagine settling lower because I've already done that so many times. It's still
mhm,
going. I still see drift kind of things drifting down where I'm like, ooh, I'm gonna move this down, and that means my current seniors are doing it and my current juniors are doing it. That means when the juniors get up to senior, I have to find something new to
mhm.
replace it because they've already done it now.
Yeah. But in the meantime, you've
Yeah,
tried that new thing.
right.
You've run it a few times, so you
Yep.
get some iterations on like how could this go? Oh,
Yep.
maybe I'd try this. Okay, ooh,
Yep.
that helped.
Yep.
So you had a chance to do it again,
Hmm.
but you also like now you have made your planning and prep easier now
Yeah.
and given yourself a little space to add a new thing the next time. Like
Yeah.
I do that too.
It's
Like
the
where
also
multiple
the
levels.
yeah, it's also the one new thing principle. Like when I first started, I wanted routines. but my things in my routines, my activities and tasks in my routines were not engaging students. And so I said, okay, now I have to go into a chaotic state where I'm introducing new things constantly just to find some things that they will
Something that
like. And
works.
so one of the
Yeah.
things was to start with a free write. And that one was working. And I thought, great, we're going to start every class to get settled with a little free write. There's a picture, people in a flood. This is our weather emergencies, weather disasters unit at the end of ninth grade. So just get settled. Here's a picture. It's an engaging picture because it's like, what are these people doing? Well, they're in a flood, so they're like trying to carry their stuff with them. Why are they smiling? People often actually try to find humor and laughter in terrible situations. Like that's we see
Yeah.
that a lot in
Survival
the
skill.
yeah, it's a survival thing. Like we see that a lot in the pictures of people in disasters. Like students are asking, "What? They're smiling?" Like, yeah, they're smiling. That's how people hold it together. So then just write as much as you can, and then and ask me. And so they're like, "How do I say shoes again?" Like, "Oh, sheds." Okay, how do I say want? So I goes, "Yeah, oh yeah, that's right. Yeah, we've learned that before." And so they're writing their little notes. But I just that also needed gradual accumulation of I was like, ooh, they are doing this. Great, let me add that to our routines. And so now we're in a place where we're just doing the things that students have shown they will engage with. So for me to try something new, I have to consider like, okay, do I want
Yeah.
to rock that boat? Like,
Yep.
do I want to stir
Yep.
that pot? Yeah,
Yep. And there's the point of like, will students be willing to participate in this kind of new thing?
yeah,
There's also, I think, like, especially with beginner students, like the anticipation, like there's comprehensibility in two ways, I think, in language classrooms. And one is the target language comprehension. Like if we're going to conduct class by using language to communicate with each other, like they need to understand really well what's happening in target language and be able to respond to that in whatever's appropriate. But also they need to understand the instructions and the way to engage and what's successful participation and what's the goal to some degree. Like
sure,
I don't know that really having, a learning target up on the board is this magical thing or something. But like if they don't know, like, okay, now you're going to mostly just hear a story. And what you need from that is to be able to, at the end of it, tell me which character you preferred. Or something like a little bit of like some sense of like, how much do I need to get from this? How much, in what way do I need to participate? Am I listening and receiving? Are you wanting new ideas here? Are you just checking for me to be accurate? Like getting a sense of clarity around the way to
yeah,
participate, I think is a big deal too. And if all of that is brand new together at the same
right,
time,
right,
lots of new target language, lots of new instructions, you're like more likely, I would say, to lose your students. So
yep,
if you can
yep,
avoid having all of that new at the same time,
yep.
yeah.
And
So with
and you go ahead.
more advanced students might be the place to try the new
Hmm.
instructional activity,
Right,
not with the total beginners who are
right.
still kind of feeling their way into the language.
Yep. Yeah, I find that that kind of like coaching talk, like, all right, here's where we're at, here's what we're doing now, here's where this is going. You're going to need to be able to do this. Not that they catch all of it. Like I just did a thing where we have unit questions, and I said, I noticed you guys aren't really actually able to read the unit questions. You copy and paste them, but you don't seem to be able to. You don't understand them. You don't know what the words mean. So let's do a little survey task where I sort of modify them a little bit. They're not in question format, they're in statement format. You check if you agree or disagree. But then we'll go back and read the original unit questions and hopefully this will help you engage with them. And I said that at the
Yeah.
beginning. And so then we went and did it. And then after they were done with the survey, we spent about 20 minutes on that. Then we went back to the unit questions and started reading them. And one of my students goes, "Oh, you were leading up to the unit questions. Genius." And I was like, I did say all this.
Yeah,
I
but they
promise I
didn't get
did say all this, but
yeah,
it's okay
totally.
if they're
But
distracted or tuned out. But it's
this is the thing,
still
like you
worth,
need
yeah, right,
multiple
right,
exposures
right.
to the way,
Instructions,
like
yeah,
all the things.
right.
Yes. Yeah.
And then
That's
another
why it's like
element,
I'm trying
yeah.
to pepper in little bits about proper and improper AI use for the classes
Hmm.
that I teach at a university,
Mm.
because I want them to hear it, 15, 20 times across the semester
Yeah,
and see examples and,
yeah,
demonstrate it and talk about how this or that could help and how this
yeah,
or that is actually taking away from your opportunity to learn. And
yeah,
like,
yeah.
so yeah, because it's
Yeah.
one time through, no.
And also
They
they're mentally juggling so much. Like they have multiple classes. There's different kinds of activities in our own class. And with teacher innovation, uh, they're if they've seen you innovate in the past, which I hope they have, then they are probably expecting that it won't be totally obvious. It shouldn't be totally obvious how to participate every time.
right.
That this is a teacher who
Along
tries
this
new things. Yeah.
along those lines, it reminded me of a student when I taught middle school. I think he was maybe seventh or eighth grade. This sounds like a seventh or eighth grade thing.
Yeah.
Um, he was like, "Oh man, you just got back from another language teacher conference, didn't you?" Because I like, yes, I did, young man. What's the problem with that? And
Yeah.
there's like, you when you teachers come back from something, you always have some new thing we're supposed to do, and
Uh,
then like,
Interesting.
yeah, but you
Yeah.
know, he we made it fun, and
Yeah. Yep.
yeah, but he was right in a way. Like, oh, I got this new
Yeah.
inspiring thing, but it's going to then put a little more burden on the
Yeah.
students.
Yeah.
Like they have to figure out this new thing.
Yep.
And
Yep.
yeah.
I've been doing these I call it fluency practice in the woods days, and it's on my calendar. Students can see when their fluency practice in the woods day is coming up. Um, I find that for my students at my school, they're often asking, "What is this for?" And what they mean is, "What graded thing is this for?" And
Yeah.
so yeah, as a side note, I'd sent you a little note that I made to myself. This was just a random like thought that came to my head is when a student asks that, and then I have to clarify to them how this is leading toward a graded thing. And I thought, oh, okay, I'm showing IGA important for a graded assignment or importance for a graded assignment.
Yeah.
It's like does it what's yeah, but what's the IGA? Not that they use that term, but
Uh-huh.
maybe I should give them that as a
Yeah.
shorthand. Like, okay, and what's the IGA? Thanks for making that short. This
Yeah.
is leading up to
Yeah,
this thing.
exactly.
But
Because I
yeah,
really want to get to the point,
yeah.
which
What's the
for
point?
them
And
is a grade,
when
right?
I've said like, oh, this is just for your general language growth, that's usually like I get a little
Not enough for
disappointed
them.
reaction, like, oh, okay, well, or they'll say like, can I go work on the library for my math thing? And like, I have students that'll ask like,
Yeah.
oh,
Wow.
if this isn't important, can I go do this something else, or can I make up something for this class?
Yeah.
Like they're really, but also that's our system. Like our system
Right.
trains them
Right.
to be on top of their graded stuff all the time. Like that's the
Yep.
context that we're in.
Right.
So I was doing forest activities
Oh
where
yeah,
we would
and
just,
maybe
yeah.
tell them what you mean by woods or forest. Like that might take a little
Our
explanation.
school is situated in not our own land. There's a local family that owns a big swath of forest, and our school is built where a drive-in movie theater used to be. So, in the 19
Oh,
up until the 1970s, or I don't know if it was just during the 1970s. I don't know the actual span of the movie theater, but local people around here, when I say, "Oh yeah, I teach at the school where I teach at," they'll say, "Oh, was that the old movie theater?" And I go, "Yeah. It was back in the
ah,
70s or 80s." Like, "Yeah, when I was a kid, my parents used to
nifty.
take me to the movie theater." But
Huh.
it's got this beautiful surrounding like mountain view, and it's situated in a forest. Last year and this year, our experiential ed department took us all the teachers at the back to school staff week right before we have a whole week of like PD before our students come back to us in August. And so last year and this year, they took us out to the different woodsy areas and then said, just shoot us an email if you want to book a spot and you can bring your kids out to the forest to do all kinds of things for class. And last year I had the thought like, oh, it'd be cool to do activities out here. And it just sat in my head. And toward the end of the year, I said, hey, we should go out there. I did a little film acting thing with my students and said, let's remember like what we're doing right now, acting, practicing these scenes from these little Chinese films, and then we'll do them in the forest. And then something came up and we canceled it. I forgot what it was. And so for this year on my big master calendar for all my classes, I put them in text. I said fluency practice in the woods number one, fluency practice in the woods number two. Ninth grade has like nine of them this year, and then it kind of tapers
Mhm.
off. I think the seniors might have three or four across the whole year. All of my different classes have gone each time. The one thing I found from the first one or two trips was that students were asking like, "What was the point of that?" And I was saying, "Oh, it's just we're just having fun with just whatever Chinese comes up. It's like we're playing red light, green light." They didn't say we already know our colors, but and they actually liked that one. They said that one was fun. We liked that game. But I had a running dictation that was I think it was random sentence. I forgot what the sentences were.
Mm. Like
But
not
then
connected
it wasn't connected to
in
anything we're
a
doing for our unit.
storyline or something.
No,
Hmm.
no, no, no. Specifically, they were like, what about like our upcoming assessments though? And so I said, if that's important, maybe I could just include that in my promises and my instructions. Like, I promise you, we will focus on sentences you need for your upcoming assessments that are graded. So now my
Mm.
running dictation, I just prep sentences that are coming up in a text they're going to need to do something with for an upcoming assessment. And I tell them that beforehand, and they seem a lot more engaged. So
Yeah.
that's my
They,
IGA. That's the importance for a graded assignment. Um,
yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. So you're going out and doing these kinds of fun game-like things
Fun.
that you can't do
Yeah.
in the classroom.
The
But I think it's
goal.
also like
Yeah.
resetting their mindset about because you're in a different place. It's
Yeah.
like outside the usual. So
Yeah.
yeah, they
And I'm
feel different
noticing
about
things
how it
about
goes.
it that are different from a classroom. I was sharing this with you maybe a week ago that the students will bring up like, so we do a pre-brief and a debrief, and that's our time for English. And I tell them this has got to be full immersion. I want you struggling to search around in your head to see how to say or circumlocute. Like that's a different set of skills
Mhm.
that are important. And if you can, and if you're just pointing at stuff, but what I don't want is just to be like, well, can we show English, ma? Like, can I just speak English? And then you express it to me. Like, no, we should be out there. It should be something like you
Right.
would get if
Yeah.
you were in a country or in a home where people just speak the language. And the main thing, I tell them, the main thing is to be hearing a lot of language from me, but then also you having opportunities to say or try to say things whenever you can, or just to be quiet and go along with it. And then in the debrief, we'll figure out how to improve the activity for next time. And all of my activities have
Mm.
changed drastically based on those debriefs every time. I take lots of notes.
Cool.
They have lots of ideas. And then the next group gets something different. When I circle back to the same grade level, they'll say, "Oh, this is way better than last time." And I'll say, "Yeah, it's because I've had three other classes give commentary that I've used to fix it and change how. Now I have a whole point system. There's a champion at the end. They want to know who the
Yeah.
winner is. And a lot of this is just because they're in high school. I don't know if college
Yeah,
students
yeah.
would
It
care
makes
about
it
a
more
champion.
fun.
Makes it more fun.
Yeah.
It's what they want.
Yeah,
Um,
they need it to feel fun as well as you need it to show evidence of helping their language growth.
I think when they
So,
see when they're promised a game, when they're like, "Hey, we're going to do a game," and then there's no point system being recorded, they're like, "What was that then?" Like
what
if
kind of game are you trying
if
to
there's
make
no
us do?
winner, if
Yeah.
there's no winner of red light, green light, that's not even red light, green light. Like
Not
the
red light, green
whole
light.
our whole there and so there's all these things that are interesting that are different from classroom activities where I'm really pulling on their experience with these games in the past or with their
Yeah.
experience with games in general. Like they're expecting certain things about games. And if we turn it into like, no, 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 we're just practicing language, then they're like, well, then it's not the game.
So
It's
it
not
has to
even a
feel like a
game.
real game.
It has to be a game and it has to run like a game. And so there's that. There's also they during the pre-brief and the debrief will say, "Hey, last time we played red light, green light, it was too short, and people would just like take a few steps and win. Can we make it longer?" And then I would say, "Hey, there's only a short flat ground. The other grounds are on hills. Are you okay running up and down hills, or especially for running dictation? Did
Mhm.
you want that
Yeah,
on a
we'll have to
hill or on
link to
flat
that
ground?"
activity too,
Yeah.
because there's a lot on the web about that one. So,
Okay, yeah, yeah. I print out little sentences. I have Chinese and English. I added the English recently to help them with meaning. And then they ask like 说英文, like, no, 不说英文. Don't say the English. And then I also give instructions. 说中文,不要说英文. 说中文,不要说英文. Say the Chinese, don't
mhm.
say the English. Say the Chinese, don't say the English.
Yeah, it's just
Then
there for them to check their comprehension of the
yeah, it's to help,
sentence.
but
Mhm.
also to hold it in your head while running to me.
Yeah,
Meaning should be part of it, but also meaning might help you hold it in your head longer too. Like it might actually
absolutely.
help with the game. And so whoever gets like, and then they suggested, can we do 4 out of 6? So now I print 6. They get to choose 4. I have doubles of each of them so they don't all crowd around one. But they also get to say like,
Mhm.
wait, that is that same sentence. And they're actually looking at the text to be like, no, wait, I already did that one. So it helps with like extra rereading and
Yeah,
considering
yeah.
the reading as
Yeah,
well.
it's got a lot of good.
Yeah, a lot of good things going on. But the terrain is different from our classroom because the classroom is by definition completely artificial. And when you say when it
Contained. How about that?
well, it's made. It's made. So
Yeah.
when a teacher says, "Do you want to stand here or do you want to stand here?" There's an obvious question to the students. What's the difference? Like, what is in the teacher's mind
Hmm.
that makes a difference between these two places? But out in the forest, when I'm asking, do you guys want to run to here or run to here? It's obvious to them. It's a difference of, do we want to run back up this hill all that way? Because that's tiring. Or do we want, and how long is it going to take us to hold that in our memory? A classroom is a small space. It doesn't make much of a difference if you're like
Right.
2 feet away versus 1 foot away to remember something. So the communication isn't even obvious why I'm asking that when we're in a
Right.
classroom. But in
Yep.
a forest, it is obvious why I'm asking because we're on terrain that provides these different challenges kind of obviously. Or even if it's not obvious, the student will make a rational decision based on like, no, I don't want to do that. Like, I don't want to, that looks too far. That looks too steep. Or I'm
Yeah.
tired. I'm too tired from out
Yeah.
here. There's
But,
mosquito. We had
and I
mosquitoes.
love
Yeah.
that you have that amount of opportunity for the students to really make that thing real. And I think
Yeah.
it's good practice for teachers to do that. And I think sometimes we're afraid that if we're trying something and then we open that up or students complain, I mean, are we losing our quote authority in the classroom? No, I
Sure.
think you're really building it
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
by listening, being reasonable, like setting, yep, okay, we're going to try this today. You're still setting some agenda,
Yeah.
but you're doing
Yeah.
it in a way that's not forcing them. It's,
Yeah.
they're with consent participating in their own learning.
Yeah. I tell
I
them
think it's
beforehand, I
good.
say, we're going to count this as play testing. These are new games and I'm still developing them. And your feedback is going to make it more fun for you the next time we play these. And so I
Yeah.
make that all very upfront. And then at the end, I say, okay, we're going to cut it short because we need 10 minutes. This is all English now. I need your feedback. I'm going to take lots of notes. And then they talk in a way that looks empowered. They're like, oh, I didn't like this part though. Like, can you, like, I didn't get that. But
Yeah.
what was the point of that one thing? And I'm like, great. And I'm like taking notes. So I'm on their side.
Hmm.
We're on the same
Yeah.
side. And they see that I'm
Yeah.
taking lots of notes. And I go, great. I need to think about this. I have to make sure that we do this in a way that helps with language. One student suggested everyone pick up something random in the forest and say something about it. And I said, if they don't have the language, I'm not sure how to support that, but I can think about it. And I did give it a try. And then I figured it out on the spot. They say a little something they can, like, this is brown. And I go, yeah, it's a brown stick. That's right. Sure. Coffee said a shoot, and then other students heard that, and then they started mimicking it. And then I would add to theirs, and I'd say, "Oh, yo, shu pi." There's a little bit of bark on there, so tree skin, a little bit of bark.
Yes.
So then other students would say, "Oh, yo, shu pi." Some of them picked up a leaf, and they're like, "是绿色的，是黄色的." It's green, it's yellow. And then I'd say, "Oh, 对，是绿色的叶子." It's a green leaf. And then I thought, oh, I could do that with
Yes. Natural building of new
yeah,
vocab in
just
there.
being in the moment. And then
Hmm.
I printed out some timelines for my seniors. I was like, remember these Chinese timelines? And I said, in the pre-brief, I said, do you want to do these or do you want to just pick up sticks and leaves like the original student suggested? And they said, can we just do sticks and leaves? I was like, you got it, no problem. And they had fun with it.
Yeah.
And then one of them
I,
started drawing
yeah.
faces and turning it into a little guy. And I was like, ooh, I didn't tell you to do
Yeah.
that, but that's a cool idea. I
Yeah.
might
It
tell the other
develops into this thing.
classes. Yeah.
Very cool.
So I don't know if we were to recap, trying new things. I think it's about seeing your situation inside and outside the classroom. What do you have time
Yeah.
for?
Yeah.
What are your students ready for?
Yeah.
And
Both language and in terms of
participation
activity.
practices. Yeah,
Yes.
yeah,
Yeah.
familiarity. And
Yeah.
I
Doing
guess
those,
that's
getting the
yeah,
debriefing,
yeah,
letting them be a part of helping to shape things. You're sometimes the teacher has the learning goal, but the students are like, this also needs to feel fun to me.
right,
And
right.
that's
Fun
okay.
or for a grade
Or
if you have a class that
enjoyable
cares about that. Yeah,
or yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
yep.
Or yeah, show me where this is going to help my grade to be
If you have a if
involved
you
in
have a
it.
student culture that's like that, which
Yeah.
mine is, yeah.
Right. Right. Which
Cool.
yours definitely is. Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
we
Cool.
covered it.
Yeah. Thanks. Fun to talk through some of those things.
Yep. Okay. Well, do you want to close up?
Sure. I am Diane Neubauer. Thanks for listening. We'll be back again.
And I'm Reed Riggs. Thank you.
Yep. Bye bye.
Bye bye.